All right, good morning, welcome. We've got some new folks on the call, so I'm just gonna do introduction. Please introduce yourselves as you're speaking. I'm Eric Thompson. I work for Move Minnesota. We're the TMO, the Transportation Management Organization for the City of St. Paul, and we host the call these days. So welcome to the December 9th Safe Routes to School Network call. For today, welcome and introduction. We are at this portion of the call. Then we'll pass it over to Dave for the MnDOT update. Then we will have a cool project called Addressing Street Harassment. It's a boost project with Jenny Borden. We'll have the Owl School Bike Repair Program, which is another cool boost project that Sarah Stewart's going to be bringing to us. And then I'm going to do a tiny survey preview. We couldn't quite fit in the survey analysis for today's call because we have so many great topics today. So there is one thing we need to talk about, which I will preview before we wrap up the call. So with that, I'm going to send it over to Dave to give us that update.
All right, Eric, we're running into that problem again where I can't screen my, I can't share my screen.
Share.
Yeah, can you give me some power?
Yep, I made it everyone else a co-host but you.
Isn't that how it always is?
Trying to send you off to Japan.
Hey folks, for those of us that haven't met, I'm Dave Cowan. I'm the Safe Routes to School Coordinator at the Minnesota Department of Transportation. And because we're trying to make enough time for some of our folks that have been implementing boost projects, I'm going to move quickly here. The first is like, hey, look, our new brand happening in the PowerPoint. If you've been wondering, if you've seen it around, the logo, our new logo, and some of the brand materials, and you wanna use them, they are available for download on the website. We'll build it out as time goes on, but right now, at least at a minimum, the various logos are available, and I think Kelly's going to drop a link for that, so you can download those if you so desire. Two real reminders today. One is that I know we're all thinking about the holidays, but Winter Walk to School Day is right around the corner. What is it, about 6 weeks out from right now or so? It is that first week in February on Wednesday, so that's February 2nd. If your schools are planning to do something, whether that is like a full-on organized event, walk to school, or walk around the track at school, getting the kids and families outside just to experience that, hey, it's not so shabby when you walk in the wintertime or even bike in the wintertime. Please make sure and register on our website. We have a registration link that I think, or at least Kelly will drop the link to that, or to the landing page for our Winter Walk to School Day event. When you get registered, we're able to send you some materials to help your event along. We also kind of send some ideas along if you haven't already kind of decided what your event is going to look like. We try to pull from other successful stories we've heard around the state and share those with you all. In addition, you can jump over on this website if you want to download some easy kind of ready to go social media posts or some flyers that you might print out and send home to parents to remind them about the event, and templates for stickers and whatnot, though we also send stickers. And then finally, just kind of prepare you to be thinking about that we do hold an annual Golden Snow Boot Award to the Winter Walk to School Day event winner. And so keep that in mind. If you send us photos and kind of a story, a recap of what happened with your event, that enters you in to compete for the Golden Snow Boot Award, the coveted Golden Snow Boot Award. I'm not sure who's coveting it, but it seemed like the right word to use. And then, most of you have been on this call, so I'm not going to spend too much time. Hopefully you all have great ideas for some of our open grant solicitations. We do have an open solicitation that closes coming up here in early January 10th, for planning assistance and boost, and even earlier for the state infrastructure solicitation. So This is just a rundown of the different solicitations that we have open and the funding sources and the amount of money that's available. There's a lot of money available. There's a lot of opportunity here, if you have not already thought about it, to look at safe routes to school plans and some of the strategies that were identified in them in communities where you work, and work with those communities to submit applications. So we really hope to see applications from each of you. I think it's going to be a good year for safe routes to school, and I know many of you have been sending questions our way about different projects that you have. One suggestion I have is that we do maintain frequently asked questions on each of the grant solicitation pages, so you can go on there and click away and see some of the questions that we get that may be the same one you have, but also we're here and available, so we're happy to help you through those questions as they come. And that's a wrap for me today, Eric, unless anybody has any questions.
One more time, just want to say when the grants close. You said about a month from now.
Yep. So I specifically didn't say the exact date because it differs for each of the grant solicitations, but I will tell you off the top of my head, I know that boost and planning assistance solicitations are January 10th at 5 p.m. That doesn't mean that you can't turn an application in today. I mean, hey, if you're ahead of the game, do it. And then those infrastructure solicitations, I don't have the website up in front of me, but I want to say that they're the week before, like end of the week before.
January 7th for the
Yeah.
state infrastructure.
Yeah. So we recognize that's a little confusing, and we'll do better next time to make sure that those dates are all the same across the board and easy to remember.
Great. Well, with that, maybe pass the screen over to Jenny.
Okay, great. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, I'm Jenny Borden. I work for Minneapolis Public Schools, and I am the active living coordinator there and work quite a bit on safe routes to school. And I'm here today to just talk about one boost grant that we applied for and completed over the last year or so. But just a titch of background, some of you know, I'm in like the nutrition services. It's culinary and wellness services in our school district. Our mission is to serve all kids through quality food and active living. So we feed them really good lunches, and then they get a chance to walk and bike and move in other ways. And then there is, when we think about equity and safe routes to school, there's our definition. We want walking and biking, rolling to be safe and comfortable and convenient for every student, regardless of any of their identities. And it really aligns with the way that we talk about like academics and achievements as well. And so, as I said, we're going to talk about the Addressing Street Harassment curriculum that we developed through a boost grant. And I'll just note that this whole application was conceived pre-pandemic. So the world looked so much different when we started this process. I just want to back up a little bit, though, and just say how we got here. We had done Safe Routes to School district planning in the 16-17 school year. And we just really wanted to hear from our stakeholders. Do you like what we're doing? What else should we be doing to make it safe and convenient and comfortable to walk and bike and roll? And in particular, we wanted to really hear from students of color and families of color. So we did a number of focus groups and pop-up engagement with those particular groups. And what we heard kind of loud and clear and really soon in the process was street harassment was a real issue for kids to feel safe. And just kind of a simple definition of street harassment might be like catcalling, hey baby, want to ride, those types of things, and go get much worse, often sexual in nature. And we heard it especially from girls, and especially from girls of color. They would talk about elaborate lengths they'd go through to avoid street harassment, changing their routes, waiting for transit in stores, wearing one earphone but not two, carrying a book, having your phone ready, having people on speed dial, like all sorts of things. And so when we used Safe Routes to School planning to identify 5 priorities for us as a school district, addressing street harassment was one of our priorities, even though we honestly had no idea how we would address it. We didn't know. And then the boost grants came along, and it seemed perfect. The boost said, is there something in your plan that you haven't tackled that we could maybe help you tackle? And we're like, we have to do this. And so then we just started talking to kind of reflecting on what our students told us and families told us, and also talking to folks kind of all in our Safe Routes to School network. And we started to come across, like we're a school, we have kids for 8 hours a day. In one of our focus groups, one of the students really pointed at us and said, you should have a class. I wish I would have known these things before I started using transit, especially. And so that's ultimately what we decided to do, was create a curriculum in middle school health that would address street harassment, and then really kind of honor that it was students telling us to do this directly, and we wanted to continue to engage high school students to see, is our curriculum on the right track? What else should we be doing? And can you help us add to this curriculum? So that is what we outlined in the project. I think I gave a little definition, but this was the definition that we were using around street harassment. And I think it's just a very poignant example of how your identities and your perceived identities really impact your lived experience. If it was just up to me, I would say there's no street harassment, because I walk through the streets of Minneapolis and I don't experience it. I'm not really the demographic that experiences it. Where there's other groups of kids, when they started talking about it, it was clear that they were all experiencing it. And so your lived experience really shapes kind of your identity, really shapes your experience on the streets. For the project, we pulled together a student committee of internal and external partners. Everybody was so excited. Everybody, like to a person, like, we're so happy you're doing something about this. This is great and important work, and kind of helped guide what we wanted to see in the curriculum. And then we had a team of writers. They were our health teachers that mainly worked around like the sexual consent education. So we're kind of comfortable with maybe these less comfortable topics. And then as part of the grant proposal too, we put in some expert help from us, from Logan Sand. They are a sexual health educator. This is what it turned out to look like, kind of after putting all these minds together. We start out just kind of helping reinforce kind of safe spaces in the classroom so you can talk about it, kind of what it is, what it looks like. Like I said, some kids don't know it exists, and some kids absolutely know it exists. Then in lesson 2, we kind of dive into it, and there's a real intersection with street harassment, with misogyny and racism. So kind of talk about communities who's more vulnerable, trans students more vulnerable to street harassment. Lessons 3, we give kids who are experiencing street harassment some tools that they can do kind of in the face of it. And then lesson 4, kind of for all of us, like if we witness it, what we can do to prevent street harassment. And I would say a thread that runs through it is like, don't harass. It's not a direct lesson, but it's it runs through the curriculum, just this empathy building for people's experiences on the street. The high school group met at one school. They met regularly. We taught the lessons to them to get feedback from them. And then they created a resource for us to use, and it turned out to be a video, and it goes mostly with those lessons 3 and 4. And then they gave us some input on what to do next. I just am showing you a little bit from the video. It was student created, student written, students are star in it, but we hired a professional company to help kind of make it look nice. And part of it, we talk about assertive communication, but communication is also quite cultural. And so there might be spots where kids might use passive or aggressive communication. And I think the curriculum, there's just a lot of space for classroom discussion and kids guided by their teacher to talk about what would you do in this situation? I don't know, what are some things that you could do in this situation, given, some specific tools, but also, some kind of processing. The kids really liked thinking about bystanders and what bystanders can do. And this really, especially with the student group, even not directly intervening, to say, are you okay? Is he bothering you? But just going up and saying, do you know when the next bus is? Might be a kind of a passive way of intervening. And so I think kids felt really empowered by that. And this is also from the video. And so the video wasn't used year one last year, but now this year with those lessons 3 and 4, they have the video resources as well made by the high school students. And then we just kept reinforcing, it's never your fault. We really shouldn't have to teach you these skills, but you told us that you would feel more comfortable and safer having these skills. But hopefully someday we won't have to give you these skills to address harassment. We got some evaluation support from our evaluation team in the district, and by and large, like, kids love the unit, teachers love the unit. The most common response, like, what didn't you like about it? Nothing. Kids reported that it made them feel stronger, more comfortable. Some kids also reported, like, I didn't know this was a thing, and now I do. And a lot of kids saying, so glad that we're talking about this. Here's our budget, and I'll show you, like, we were kind of off. I think other Safe Routes to School coordinators will tell you, paying people is one of the trickiest things to do, and so we estimated almost $10,000 for staff expenses. It turned out to be closer to 5. Part of that was because we thought we'd have sub pay and like a day-long workshop for training teachers, and subs kind of became a thing of the past in Minneapolis public schools during the pandemic. And teachers work so hard and will often work for free. And even just to get them to put their hours in, to pay them was sometimes, took a lot of pestering, but it also is important. I think we should pay people for their talents and their skills, and they should expect to be paid. So I think it was important to have. And then I think a key piece of our success was also having the support from Logan Sand and Lutheran Social Services to kind of help guide us in the curriculum writing. And then we tried to put our money where our mouth was when we made our budget, and we gave that student group a budget to work with that they used to make the video to address student harassment. Just my advice, I think, listen to the students. They're brilliant, and they will guide you. And it can be scary, and you don't know where it's going. Like, we didn't know our path. I don't expect it to be black and white. It's not as easy as ordering a bike fleet and following a curriculum that exists. But it's worth it. There's incredible talent in school communities. I would also say, like, teachers are well trained to have difficult conversations, to talk about race and gender and consent and harassment. And so the curriculum will be a little bit open as well, I think, because of it's a lot of conversation and experience-based and sharing. Key people for us for this project were the PE health lead, as well as the social emotional learning lead, and then that expert help. There were times we didn't know we were going to get a video out of those students, really. We kept the faith. I met regularly with the adult that led them. She was fantastic, or that guided them. And we kept the faith, and I would say we got lucky a little bit. So, but don't be afraid to tread in ambiguity, I guess I would say. And planning really, I think, also helped us guide our work. But now what? We did revise the curriculum based on some of that evaluation that you saw. So we have a revised curriculum the kids are using this year. All schools, all middle schools are implementing it. We have middle school in all our 8th grade, which is fantastic. And then we are looking to continue, maybe apply for, or we will be applying for another Safe Routes to School planning grant, and continue to try to address this issue of personal safety. And there, I put my contact information, so I'm always happy to share more if it interests you. And that's it.
Well, thank you so much. Folks have questions and comments. That was great. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions and comments. And if there's not, shame on you. And I have a million questions and comments. So, but yeah, open for questions from folks. Will, I see a hand.
Thank you. Hi, Jenny. Very cool work. Question for you. Is the curriculum that you developed a public resource because it was funded by MnDOT? And how, if so, how ploppable do you think it would be in a different school districts' health program? You know, how much, if you had to estimate, how much work would it take to adapt to another school district?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that we do is public. So yes, is it a public resource? And I think I'm catching up on my emails after being out a week, but I think also sharing it with the Walk Bike Fun folks that are working on doing an update to that curriculum. I think our health teachers were really ready for it. So, but what I understand in health education across the state, it might vary widely. And so, you know, if your health teachers are already having these courageous conversations, if they're already doing sex education, then I think they would be able to do that, take this and run with it.
Thanks, Jenny.
Any other questions, comments?
Jenny, this might be outside of Minneapolis, but how far reaching do you think this problem is of street harassment?
Oh,
And you know, you can say I don't know, but I think that might be of interest to folks on the call.
well, I mean, I don't know, but that doesn't stop me from answering, right? And now I'm trying to remember, because when we were in the heart of this project, you know, we end up talking about it. And I feel like I've talked to people in rural Minnesota. My father's family is up like in Kelliher, Minnesota. And I feel like it was like, yeah, we have that here too. I feel like it feels pretty common experience. And when it happens, I mean, I'll just say this for parents, like literally, I didn't really know that it was a thing until my own daughters were like 10 or 11. You know, it's younger than kids. It's kind of, you know, right at that cusp of puberty, I think, when it really will hit. And before kids are really ready or know what it is and what's happening, unfortunately.
I got a couple of questions.
I just want to, for 1 second, Eric, I just want to add on that, because I was curious what your perspective was, and I want to say out loud that, you know, MnDOT did these transportation equity interviews around the state and the various MnDOT districts, and Kelly participated in some of those and might be able to speak more specifically to what we heard. But I think it was pretty common that folks either chose not to walk or bike at all because of various forms of street harassment, or like you mentioned with the students and their reflections on like the modifications that they made to having like a safe route to where they were going was far more based on, you know, avoiding that harassment than it was on finding a crosswalk.
Mm-hmm.
I just got some rapid fire thoughts. When you started out with this engagement, which schools were you doing? All of Minneapolis public schools, and kind of which grades were you engaging with? Because it ended up in 8th grade, but were you engaging with students from all sorts of grades?
Yeah, that's a great question. And now I have to remember, so I won't completely have it. But for the student engagement, we did pop-up engagement at every middle school at lunch. And we heard it there. And then we did a couple focus groups. One was with seniors at North High, and I personally love seniors for your focus groups because they have one foot in the kid door and one foot in the adult door, and they were really very reflective on their own experiences and trying to make it better for the kids that were coming up behind them. And then we did another focus group in Spanish at Wellstone, and that was with kids. And then we did some adult focus groups as well. And so, and then we did some other stuff. I think there was an online survey, but that didn't really get it, for engaging communities of color, especially. It didn't get it in the way that we were hoping that it would. So that's why we did some of these other engagement means. Oh, we did a focus group with elementary school kids too at Pillsbury. I'm remembering. Didn't come up there, but those kids were talking about biking.
Of course. I guess the other question I kind of had was the curriculum designed solely for students who might experience harassment and want some tools to navigate that, or was it also designed to kind of like teach other students who might perpetrate that harassment in the future to have some of that empathy and reasons why they should never?
Yeah, it was absolutely designed for all the students. We are now having all our students experience it, and I think the empathy piece and the don't harass piece is important. And your students will tell you, stop teaching me how to avoid it, teach other people how to not do it. And at the same time, we do want some tools. We don't want to just be blindsided by it. And then there's other forms of, if street harassment is a lot sexual in nature, there's also just racism and bullying harassment, which I think the tools are similar. And then another entry point is just as bystanders. The last lesson is really like what we all can do as a community to keep each other safe.
Oh, that's great. And I think it's really important. The engagement that you did kind of showed that folks who have maybe more marginalized identities are experiencing streets in completely different ways than other folks. So I think that's really important. Well, thank you so much, Jenny.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
Great project. Great job.
Let's see.
With that, we'll pass it over to Sarah.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. And I'm going to be talking about a very different boost project that we did here in St. Paul. So it's a bike repair program out of a high school. Just a little bit first about the St. Paul Public Schools. This probably doesn't come as a huge surprise to people on the call, but we're the second largest school district in the state. We have 56 schools and programs right now, and we're incredibly diverse with more than 125 languages represented and 79% students of color, and some of the other data about our districts. We have Safe Routes to School programs happening across many schools in our districts, a lot of walking programs, walk to school days. We also have one bike fleet that serves the whole district, although we've had some schools add their own fleets in the last couple of years as well. We're kind of moving our fleet around, and most of our schools that use bikes are using our fleet. And I should say one of the things with our fleet is, and I think this is an issue for most people using bike fleets, is how do we affordably maintain and repair the bikes in it? Over the last few years, we're going on our 6th year of this fleet. That has been done by just kind of cobbling together other grant funding and paying bike shops to do it, but that's expensive and difficult, and we wanted something more sustainable. And at this point, the demand for our fleet is really high, and we know that at some point we should really add another fleet, at least one more fleet, to meet the demand of our schools. If we're going to do that, we need to figure out how to affordably maintain our bikes. So what we ended up doing is looking at, or kind of exploring an option to repair our fleet in-house, and partnering with a school called Open World Learning Community, or OWL, which is located on the west side of St. Paul over here. One thing about the west side of St. Paul, it's not really on the west side of the city. It's kind of on the south side of the city. I think it's supposed to be west of the river, even though it is actually totally cut off from the rest of St. Paul by the river. So it's kind of west, east, and south of the river, of the Mississippi. So it's kind of in an isolated area of the city, and you just connected to the rest of the city by a few bridges, with one bike shop on the west side. So the reason we partnered with OWL is they have a program at the school called Project Bike Tech. It's a national bike mechanic curriculum that they use, and they actually teach bike mechanic classes at the school. You can see some images here of students taking the classes. This over here is Joe Blegan, the teacher who teaches the classes, who unfortunately couldn't join us today. But every year they have, every semester they have 2 full sections of students, so a total of 40 students taking the class. It's extremely popular. It's great because it's a way to teach kind of life skills. I mean, like, it's so useful to have skills for repairing bikes and maintaining bikes, but it's also a career pathway for some students. At least 3 students have finished the program and gone on to work in bike shops in the area. And they love it. So we partnered. So OWL has had a vision of opening a community bike repair service for a while, for a few reasons. One, they want more experience for their students. To the West Side community, they wanted to be able to provide an affordable bike repair service for community members that might be more accessible than the one bike shop that's located in that part of the city. And they wanted, and for us at the district level, wanting that lower cost maintenance and repair service for our fleet and any future fleets that we get. So in January of 2020, we submitted our boost grant, and our plan was to open a bike repairs, an after school bike repair service at the school in the 2021 school year. And then everyone knows what happened next. We had to radically shift our plans because of school closures, and students at the high school weren't going full-time, weren't going to school at all for most of the I'm trying to think of when this was, the 2021 school year. And even when they went back, it wasn't full-time, and there were no after-school programs. So we couldn't do the program as we intended. So it looked a lot different than what our grant application was. But I'll share some of the things we accomplished. We researched relevant programs within the district and tried to figure out how this would work, all the way from taking in money and managing that to trying to make sure we were addressing liability concerns, to understanding what permits we needed to get. So we kind of figured all of that out. We worked with design consultants. We created a name for the program, and then worked on and developing these great logos. Worked with a consultant to develop some kind of options, and then the students at the school voted on them, and this is kind of what we ended up with, a logo and like an owl bike symbol that we just loved so much that we kept. And then we printed a whole bunch of promotional materials for the bike shop, including like stickers and magnets and business cards, and some other things. We also developed a communication plan, so that's kind of ready to go when we actually launch the shop, so that we can kind of get the customer base that we want to have, and a website, which is here, not public yet, but ready to launch when we actually open the shop. We also developed, I think I have it in here. We We also bought like lots of supplies to go with the shop, so tools, bike parts, and that kind of thing, which is still a work in progress just because of the difficulty in securing the inventory of bike materials or bike supplies is just still kind of out of whack and not back to normal yet. So we haven't been able to get everything that we wanted to, but we're still working on it. And we purchased a shipping container to store the bikes. The other thing that we did was to kind of develop a little bit of kind of the shop procedures, like how are we going to take in bikes? How are we going to think about training the students? How will we charge for the different services that will be offered? What we settled on was a suggested price for repair services that's in line with what bike shops typically charge, and letting people pay what they think they can afford. So the reason we did that was just to show the value of the work and how much, you know, those repairs are really worth, but also make it accessible to people regardless of their ability to pay. What's happening now? The project bike tech teacher, he works half-time at the school now. Before, he was only teaching the 2 classes on a very part-time basis. The school upped his hours so that he can open the after-school program. They're planning to launch it in the 2nd semester, and it will be kind of this school year. It'll be more of a soft launch at the beginning, just so that they can get all of their systems kind of worked out and kind of get everything going. And they will work on our district's fleet this winter, which is great. One thing the teacher has said is that the students, it's just taking longer to kind of get the students' skills up to where they normally would. It's just like there's a lot going on, and I think this is true in a lot of schools. It's just like this is a hard school year, so he's kind of working with that. But he's identified some students that are interested in the program and will be joining it this winter. And then we're hoping to have some sort of grand opening in the spring to really share the program with the community and kind of launch it as a more permanent thing. I think that's all for now. Oh, I will say, just going back to what Jenny said about like subs and kind of staff capacity, we were really under budget as well. And it was specifically staff time that we were under budget for, partly because there was so much uncertainty and we were hoping and hoping and hoping we would open, and that just didn't happen. Partly because in schools right now, it's kind of an all hands on deck mentality. There's not enough staff to do really anything. There's not enough people in the lunchroom. There's not enough subs. There's just not enough people. So the project bike tech teacher has been pulled away from this work often, so to kind of fill in staffing gaps in the school, and that's continued to happen this school year. So that continues to be a challenge. There's just not enough people to do the work at schools. So anyway, that's what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions and put my contact information here. And also the teacher at the school, his contact information is here too, if you want more specifics about the program and what he's teaching.
Great. Does anybody have some questions? I know I've got a couple here.
Sarah, it might be worth talking to folks about what the partnership with National Project Bike Tech looked like and what it took to get that off of the ground.
Yeah, so that happened before I started with the district, but that is, so the Project Bike Tech is kind of a national nonprofit that's opening up these bike repair or these bike mechanic programs across the country. And they have a full curriculum that the programs use, which is really great. OWL worked with Project Bike Tech to start the program, and they really provided a lot of support and helped them equip their classroom. So, you know, it's a pretty significant startup cost to get all of the mechanic stations and tools and bikes to work on. So they partnered with local, I think Park Tool donated some money and supplies, and Eric's also kind of contributed. So they helped coordinate all of that. And then the program itself has ongoing costs in terms of, the staff time of the teacher, and there's an annual kind of curriculum license fee that they have to pay. It comes out to like a couple $1,000s for the school. So they're hoping that the repair program brings in a little bit of funding to help kind of cover some of the costs associated with the program.
I might have just missed this. How did the funding look at the end? Were you able to pay students who are working at the bike shop, or can you not pay the students?
We don't have money right now to pay the students. So this would be kind of more like an internship program, kind of an extended day learning is kind of what it's going to fit under. There's an extended day learning program at the high school. So they have other similar kinds of classes and things that you can take. This will kind of fit with that. We are interested in paying students eventually. That is something we talked about and trying to figure that out, but we just don't have the resources right now to make that happen. I didn't mention this either, but we are planning to, at this point, our Safe Routes program and some of the grant funding we have, we are planning to pay for the repairs of our fleet, just about half the cost of what we would pay at a regular bike shop. So it's nice because it's some cost savings for us, and it's also kind of helping to support the program at OWL.
Well, I think this is a really cool project because as people are getting bike fleets and are trying to maintain bike fleets, they're seeing that bikes are not easy to come by. So it's more important than ever to maintain those bikes. I think projections are 2023 is maybe when we'll be able to find bikes normally again, but we'll see. So very, very cool work. And I think work that a lot of folks should do, especially if they have bike fleets in their area or just bikes in general at schools.
Eric, there was a question from CJ in the chat.
Ooh.
It might be serve.
I can see it. It's, do students participate for credit or extracurricular, and how often do they turn over? We don't know how often they're going to turn over yet. So the Project Bike Tech class is for credit during school. The after school program is going to be more like an extended day learning opportunity. And so I don't know if they get credit for that or not. That's a good question. That would be more of a school question that I could find out. And we have no idea how often they'll turn over. So that it's a high school, and I think most of the students taking the Project Bike Tech class are like juniors. So there is going to be some turnover over time, but we'll see.
Do you have any backstory, Sarah, on the 3 students you said that went on to work at bike shops?
I don't. I wish the teacher, the Project Bike Tech teacher, could have been here today because he would be able to share that. But
I can jump in. I was picking up bikes for South St. Paul's bike fleet, and I picked them up from Lowertown Bike Shop. And the person that was helping me took this class and was saying how cool it was. And he's like, "Oh, I see you're picking up for a bike fleet." And we like got to talking, and he was like, "Oh, Boost is so sweet to put these into schools." And we used the OWL class. And he was just really excited. So it was fun to see it in the community. The work that is being done at St. Paul.
Thanks, Sophie. It is an exciting program, and actually we have one more high school that's interested in doing it too. So we're going to start exploring having another Project Bike Tech program in the district soon.
Super cool.
And you said this at the beginning, Sarah, and CJ says it all the time, and I'm going to say it again, which is a lot of folks that get bike fleets really find themselves in a jam, you know, a year or 3 years into owning a bike fleet because of the maintenance aspect of it that just wasn't able to be a part of the original grant funding or ongoing grant funding. And so, you know, projects like these are just a fantastic solution for a number of reasons, but one of them is keeping that fleet or fleets going.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. This is a great project.
Thanks.
I'll quickly share my screen again. It's no longer over to Dave. You're awesome. Thank you for all the people that took the survey. We had about 50 responses, which is our best yet. So again, it drives content on here, drives format, and kind of like informs what y'all need to hear and how you want to hear it. But it also shows us another thing, 2 memes in a row. So the meeting date has been kind of a problem for some folks. So instead of the 3rd Thursday of every month, we're going to move to the 1st Thursday starting in January. So don't worry, I'm going to send out new meeting invites next week. Everything will work out, I'm sure. This never works perfectly for everyone. I'm sure that there are some folks now who won't be able to make it. Again, we're recording all of the meetings, and if you have anything that is kind of you're really hoping to bring to us, feel free to email. But yeah, 1st Thursday is going to be the new way, and that's kind of it for this survey preview, because we're going to do a deep dive next week. Next week as well, we've got, or not we, Bike Walk Leadership Network has Biking and Walking Brings Joy for All Ages. The link here down at the bottom, some cool work that's being done by the folks in We Bike Rochester. So check it out if it works out for you on next Wednesday. And then looking ahead, we've got the annual survey report out next month. We're looking to showcase some demonstration and engineering projects. And then in February, we're kind of looking to do some infrastructure A to Z, recognizing that a lot of us have been on this call for a long time, but there's also a lot of new people here. We take a lot of language for granted, and we're trying to demystify some of these jargon that we might use. And then take a look at the federal infrastructure bill and how that's going to affect the work that we do here. And then a little to be decided in March. These next 2 topics can be a little bit subject for changes. We're just trying to wiggle around with scheduling and making sure we have enough time in the call itself. But we do have 10 minutes today, and I have been trying so hard, and through the survey, I have heard that folks have been wanting to, okay, sorry, I got to stop my share. Folks have been wanting to just be able to network in a way that's not, you have a task. And so today, we have a lot of new people on the call. I'm just going to break us out into rooms for 10 minutes, and you can meet each other, and please introduce yourselves, because again, new folks on the call, and just a space to network without any real expectation that you will come back with some sort of text in a document or anything. So feel free to talk about today's topics, just talk about where you are in the world or how terrified you are of all the snow tomorrow. But I'm just going to break you out so you can introduce yourself and hopefully meet some new folks. Oops. Hold on one second. There we go.
I hope that you attend, or like as in law enforcement, you have the opportunity to share about league cycling instruction and all that stuff.
Oh yes,
as
they have
well.
a bicycle response team that I plan to be part of, and gonna nerd out all things bike possible.
Oh, cool. That's another fun overlap. I hadn't thought of that.
Super.
Cool. Well, who else wants to share the cool stuff they're up to? I know that you all are like our super stars of Safe Routes. So I'm excited to hear.
So we had a meeting last week with one of our groups or this week, Tuesday, and the mayor and the city administrator met with the school to encourage the application for Safe Routes to School Planning Assistance Grant. And they said they were not willing to support it this year, even though we had a grant writer and everything. So
Was that for Plainview Elgin?
No, Wawasha Kellogg.
Oh, okay. Gosh, what a bummer.
But they, the city did submit an application for the RERC Planning Assistance Grant. So that has been submitted and hopefully we get that. But in support of trying to get the bridge from Wabasha to Kellogg. So some other things like that. So, and then, yeah, we have a Plainview Elgin Millville Safe Routes to School meeting tonight. It was supposed to be last week, but it got moved out to this week. So we'll see what kind of updates we get there. They plan on submitting a planning assistance grant, or this Plainview does, next year, not this year. So.
Okay, well, we're still going to have a bunch of funds next year too, so
I hope
that's
so.
okay.
Hopefully Wabasha Kellogg will be ready too.
Yeah, I think
I keep plugging away.
I think we have a similar amount of funding for next year, so it should be good. But yeah,
Great.
cool. Thanks for sharing, Tina.
Mhm.
I can jump in. So kind of shifting, I was at a school, South St. Paul, and now I'm more at our county, Dakota County, and still seeing how Safe Routes interweaves with work and being the active living lead for the county. It's really fun. I just sat in on a planning grant yesterday for a city and working with parks to potentially do a like bike share station and like really supporting the infrastructure that's taking place and promoting safe routes. So it's really fun to know the background of schools work and then know how the county can show up for them. So I keep pushing. MDOT, safe routes. Come on, team.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you have a really unique perspective of like a lot of times it's, you know, you have the county perspective, but you have come from working in the schools, both in Minneapolis and South St. Paul. So that's a really awesome perspective you bring to the table.
There's
Cool.
a lot of times, Kelly, I'm like, I'll just email Kelly. We'll figure this out.
Okay, that's what I'm here for. Perfect. Yeah. Karen, what's
Hi,
happening?
Karen.
What's happening in Partnership for Health area?
Sophie, Ashley told me, I spent the weekend with Ashley and Dylan and their 2 little boys, and she told me you had moved to Dakota County.
I have, but I'm still here.
Yep, that's great. We're trying to talk, we've just met with all of our school wellness committees, and we're trying to talk many of them into like considering boost grants. I don't know how many will actually follow through. We have one of our bigger school districts is Fergus Falls, and they got a bike fleet in 2013 and have never used it with their school curriculum, like for, you know, their PE classes. So Wayne Hurley, myself, and Dave Sanderson, a bike enthusiast, we're getting to meet with the PE teachers on the 20th of December to try to talk them into using it, the bike walk or the walk bike fun curriculum. So I feel like I'm not having as much success, but I certainly am pushing a lot of people, as always.
I think that's the thing with safe routes is, you know, with schools, there's so much transition each year with, you know, people and their roles that you kind of have to keep nudging each year. So I appreciate that you're looking out for that valuable bike fleet resource and trying to utilize it more. Hopefully it's successful endeavor.
Yes. And today I'm coming to you on my phone. I spilled water on my computer yesterday.
Oh no.
And so I have now learned how to do Zoom on my phone. I learned how to print from my phone this morning. So I'm learning new skills thanks to spilling water, but I probably have to buy a new computer.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I've totally done that too, though.
So don't drink water while you're at your computer is my message for today.
There you go. Separate hydration station away from your desk. Cool. All right, well, it's 10:59. Eric, are you going to bring us all back together? Or are we just going to kind of phase out?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to bring us all back together here. One second.
Yeah, this is nice to hear updates from you all. Thanks for sharing.
Maybe we're the only ones left.
No, the other rooms have quite a few folks still. I'm always worried that when we go to breakout rooms, everyone will leave the call because some people love to hear things, but they don't really want to say things, which is fine. But again, from what we heard on the survey, a lot of folks do want to talk to each other and not just passively hear us yammer, which we're prone to do. But
That's my general attitude about it, but then once I do it, I'm okay.
yeah, that's like most folks said, you know, I know it's kind of like you know, broccoli. Like I don't really want it, but I know it's good for me. Once you get to it and you're happy about it. Well, great. I think we're all back. or mostly all back. Thanks so much, everyone, today. Thank you so much, Jenny and Sarah, for your great presentations. Enjoy the rest of your days, and we'll see you next month on the first Thursday. And I will again send reminders. Cheers.
Bye,
Thanks, all.
everyone.
Bye, thanks.